Hi everyone, so this is going to be my second Let's Talk video. Today I'm going to be interviewing my dad about his antique, I think that's the right word, antique books. He has some pretty amazing stuff. So we're going to get into the video now. This is my dad, Fred. Hi,
Hello.
Dad. And he is going to talk to us about his books.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of books here right from the 1900s, right down to the 1500s down here. Up until 1455, when Gutenberg invented the printing press, only rich people, royalty, monasteries, the church, actually had books to store information, and that's what they did. They stored information on it. It was easy to transfer the information because they would just get somebody to copy the books. That's why in early schools you're prompted to have good writing skills, because prior to 1455 you needed really good skills for the books to be able to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. In 1455 Gutenberg invented the printing press, and of course the most famous book that came out of that was the Gutenberg Bible, which there's not too many still remaining because that's close to 600 years ago.
Oh jeez.
But that started the whole process of the information age, where it was possible to produce not just one book by handwriting it out or copying it, but to produce multiple copies that could be sold and everything. When you bought a book back in the good old days, this is what you got. You got something with a paper cover on the back. It's not a paperback, it's more of a cardboardy thing. And then inside you'll notice that the actual printed part is in a small section of the piece of paper. The paper is bigger than what you would be the finished book. So what you would do is, somebody would buy this. This is how you bought it from the printer. You take it to a place called a bindery, and what they would do is they'd ask you, what kind of binding do you want on it? Do you want embellishments on it? That sort of stuff. Do you want clasps on it? I'll show you a book with a clasp on it later. And then they would trim the page down to the size, put it on, bind it all and everything, and you'd end up with a finished book that has a binding. Here's one from the 1600s that's got a binding on it. It's all the page edges have had gold applied to them.
Ooh, cool.
And then it's all, although this is an old book, the cover looks pretty new because it's been well taken care of.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The class thing, here's a dictionary from 1596.
Oh my god.
And it's a big book, so I mean there'd be a problem with handling it. So the original metal clasp from 1596 is still on there. You just squeeze the book and then you open it up, and it's a dictionary.
That's the original clasp still?
That's the original clasp from 1596. Oh my gosh. So there you have all the words from A to Z, and at that particular time what they meant. Of course, we've got a lot more words now than they had back then, and a lot of the words have gone by the wayside. So that just clips in there.
That is cool.
When it works, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So this is some of the older stuff. This is, I think this is 1559. Yeah, 1559.
That's cool.
You know, you had the way that we have books produced now, which is paperbacks are the cheap ones, and then the hardcovers are the expensive ones.
Yeah.
Back in these days, in the 1550s and 1600s, if you had a two-color red and black title page, that was the expensive version, and the non-expensive version was just all solidly black.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love the way they smell.
Yeah, they smell really cool. The thing that's amazing about this is that they've lasted so long, but some of them haven't lasted in very good condition. Here's a sample of one that's really seen better days.
Oh my god.
All these holes here are from woodworms. So
No.
this was obviously on a ship at one time, and the worms have got into it and actually eaten through the pages.
No.
And so you can actually see the trail of the woodworms through the pages.
Wow.
And the covers come off, and but it's still.
That is cool.
It's still an interesting
What book is
one.
that?
That's just a history of Concordia or something.
Oh.
A lot of the books that you'll see that are this age say that they're opera, but they're not really about operas. Opera means works. So if you had a favorite author, somebody might print all of his stories in one great big giant volume and call it an opera. So back in the days after the printing press was invented, you would print off a solid sheet of paper each time, and you wouldn't actually want a book that big because that would be pretty big. So they used to print a number of pages on a single page, and that's what determined what size the book was called. These books here are called folios because they would have got either 4 images or 8 images on a sheet of paper. And I've got a couple of other ones over here. I'll show you the range of the size. So this is called a 32, which simply means that there was 32 pieces of paper on a single sheet that went through the printer. This one's quite interesting. I just got to put on my glasses. It was printed in 1651, but that's not the original cover. This cover here there's a notation from the owner, paid to Joe Stark for binding this book, 3 pence sterling, 21 April 1746. Cool. So the original cover lasted almost 100 years, and then they redid it, and the second cover has lasted a lot longer. So that's a 32. They would have got 32. This is what's called an elephant folio. This is 19 inches high and
That's
about
huge.
12 inches side, and they would have only got 4 sheets or possibly even 2 sheets. So there would be, or 1 sheet, they would have got 2 impressions on it. This is, I think this is from the 1800s. 1838. So this is just a register of all the properties in the Carnarvon printed for Queen Elizabeth. This is just a reprint of that was done in 1838. So what it does is it lists all the property owners at the time in that area, what properties they had, how many acres they had, and who had owned the land and sort of stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's the size differences in books. You don't get very many books that are this big anymore, but there are some. Bindery. Oh, I wanted to talk about Pulp Fiction too, which everybody says, oh, well, that's a movie.
Yeah.
The Pulp Fiction era was from about the 1920s to the 1950s, and what it was a boom in the educational level of people, allowing them to read. Prior to that, it was special to have your children be able to read and write, but after the start of the 1900s, it was more available to send your kids to school so they could read. When they grow up, they wanted to read books. So the publishers soon figured out that they could use the cheapest paper possible to produce these and sell them for dirt cheap. Even back in the 1950s, you could buy a brand new hardcover book for $3 by subscription rather. But what they did was, using the cheapest paper means that after it's exposed to the atmosphere, it starts to deteriorate and brown. So you'll find a lot of the old books where the edges and inside when you open it up are all brown, and that's just because of the cheapness.
Oh.
And so in the old days, and the old books that we looked at over there, those were produced to last a long time. So it's really good paper. Most of it's handmade or so-called hand-laid paper, and it will last forever unless the worms get to it or there's some water damage.
So woodworms are on ships?
Yeah, woodworms are on ships, and they come aboard on the lumber that the ships.
Do they look like an actual worm?
They look like an actual worm. They're very thin. Oh. They're almost like carpenter ants. Carpenter ants is another problem. Carpenter ants didn't seem to attack books, but the woodworms did take it. And you can actually see the trail of them going through some books.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. So we've since gone. Now we have better quality paper that we're using because they realized that was, people wanted to put the books in the libraries and hang on to them.
Yeah.
But when they all turned brown and rot, that didn't do any good.
Right.
And now you have people going back to the original way of producing books. You have people like Subterranean Press, Easton, Folio Society, and there's an English outfit too, where they're actually hand building the books again. They're sewing the pages together, so when you open a hardcover book and lay it flat, it doesn't do anything to the cover, whereas with a paperback, as soon as you open it up, there's a crease that's created in the back.
Totally.
Well, the Smith sewn ones is what they're called. You can lay them flat and it doesn't do anything.
That's awesome.
And they last forever because they're high quality paper.
That's totally cool.
Yeah. So it's fun thinking about particularly a lot of the older books were in monasteries at one time.
Yeah.
And they've actually stamped them, or they've been in the, like I've got a bunch that were in the Chicago Library. They were received in 1838, so they're stamped 1838 received, and then 1902 deleted from inventory.
You have one of those?
Yeah, I'd have to dig it out and try and find one. But a lot of them
That's
have
cool.
monastery stamps, and it's quite interesting to see that where they've been and who's touched them, sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's fun. It's a fun hobby.
What's that little book there that we didn't get to see yet?
That's
That
just
one.
another 32, and I don't think there's anything special. I think it's from 1628.
That's so cool.
Yeah. But you have to have really good eyes, because look at how
Yeah,
small that
holy.
print is.
Yeah, that's pretty small. That's really cool.
Or you'd have a servant to read it to.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's it for old books. They're lots of
Now, can you tell me about your, what is it called?
fun. Oh,
The
okay.
thingy over
so
there?
let's go over here.
Because it's so cool.
So what this is part of a tusk from a woolly mammoth found in northeast British Columbia when they were completing the Alaska Highway in 1959. So this tusk is between 9,000 and 12,000 years old, because
Jeez.
that's when the woolly mammoth were in that part of North America. And this is a form of ivory. This little piece here weighs 36 pounds. And I took one of the little pieces off, and using lapidary techniques, I've created this heart out of so that's an ivory heart from a woolly mammoth, piece of a
so
woolly mammoth
cool.
tusk.
That is so
So
cool.
just this little part of the curve, and looking at it, you can imagine how much the tusk of the woolly mammoth would have weighed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Can we see the inside?
Yeah. Just allow me to pull it.
If you, it's heavy.
It's heavy. There.
Because it is so cool. This is actually what it looks like on the inside. It looks like wood to me.
It does. Yeah.
Like, that's just fascinating. That is so cool. I love that.
Don't want it to fall down.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
don't let it fall. That's awesome.
That's it.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
Here's this book that Dad just dug out, and it has the wood,
It has a wooden
Cover.
cover.
and it had the clasps, but it doesn't anymore.
Doesn't have the clasp anymore. And it was in the monastery Weingartnus in Germany in 1617, and it was printed in 1616. So the year after it was printed, it ended up at the monastery.
And do you know what this book is about?
I'd have to look it up. A lot of the early books are about religious and philosophical stuff. They like to analyze religions.
Okay.
So
That
this
is
one's in
so
pretty good
cool.
shape.
That is, totally is.
Yeah.
And the cover is so
And the back
thick.
cover again it's wood. And there's the back of the clasp mountings.
And look at the detail.
Yeah. So this is 401 years old. Had a birthday last year.
Okay, so this book is how old? 400 and
410 years old
there's the worm trail.
that they've eaten through the book.
Does it go deep through?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and it's still there.
Yeah.
That worm really likes
It's
this
down
book.
here too.
Oh, and it's gotten down there too.
They like to get in on the edge and eat it, chew along it.
That is so weird.
And then here you can see the actual binding threads that are holding all they're called quires, Q-U-I-R-E-S. So the quires are sewn together first, and then pushed together, and then this is all sewn so that they're all, and then it's all treated after. So those are raised.
That's so cool. That's awesome. That's a huge book. So this old book is about a guy's trial. And if you read it, it basically says they're going to hang him up and chop off all his body parts. And they're going to take out his bowels and give them to the king. And they're going to cut him into 4 pieces.
Yep. And then the king can do with them as he pleases.
That is crazy. And then this is how they spelled finish.
It's from 1681.
1681. Good thing we're not living in 1681.
So that's the end of the interview. Thanks for joining us for my second series, Let's Talk About Books. Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome.
See you later.
Yeah.